Hey everyone, welcome to the show. We are ready to get it started. As usual, we've got great topics, interesting topics that we think you're going to enjoy. They're not always happy and peppy, but they're important. They're news, right, Clay? I mean, it's what's going on in the world.
Listen, that's what we do. That's what we're here for. We got to talk about what's going on. That's why people tune in. For some reason, they like to hear our take on things.
I love it. Listen, I'm grateful. I know you're grateful.
Yeah.
And we are ready to roll right after this. I hold out hope, or maybe, it's a weird thing to hope for when this is what you do, but I hold out hope that one day, just one day, we're going to get on here and go, hey, nothing happened this week. It's a quiet world. Everybody's happy. Everybody's getting along. Everybody likes each other. Nobody's doing bad things.
Not a chance.
And then I woke up, right?
Not a chance.
No, not a chance. It's been wild. As Clay knows, and maybe as some of you know, I was once again down in Florida. This was a quick turnaround. And, but while I was there for about a week, just under. And of course, while I'm there, it's a busy news cycle, lots of things happening, of course. It's never not a busy news cycle, obviously. But so I was kind of like chomping at the bit to. I was loving my time there. I did not want to trade it for anything, but I was ready to get back and get to this. And we've, like we said in the beginning, we've got some great topics for you. Right off the bat, Israel and Iran. This is obviously huge. What's going on there? As everyone knows, now Clay is going to take over on this one. I'm just going to give you the quick little overview here. Maybe there's somebody who doesn't know. I don't know. I mean, it's possible. There's a lot of people that say, I don't watch the news. I don't want to know. I don't want to hear anything. And, so maybe this is their one news source, but yes, Iran launched a major attack. Intended to be a major attack, right? I mean, everything was intercepted, right? Was it? Tell me.
Yeah. So, I mean, you and I have been talking about this since October, right? And really everything, when I said something on the socials a couple of days ago, you and I, since the attack in October by Hamas, we've been pulling the pieces together, right? Because it's all Iran funded, and it's Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis, and it's everything going on in the Middle East, and Iran sits in the middle of it. And they're backing all of these organizations, these terrorist groups. And then, the Israelis basically said enough's enough, outside of just dealing with Hamas, which they have been, they really said, we're going to take some action. And they killed the commander of the IRGC.
Yes.
Just like we did,
You're right.
Killed one. They killed the guy who took over for him.
Yeah.
Because that's the organization that funds all of these terrorist organizations. That's the official Iranian military organization that's behind all of this. So
right,
they called in for an airstrike in Syria and killed this guy at an Iranian consulate. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. And so now this is the Iranian response, and it happened. I guess here in the United States, it happened on Saturday daytime, which means it was Saturday evening,
right?
Which Saturday's the holy day in Israel. Which it's interesting that they chose to wait until Saturday night instead of doing it Friday night, when the Israelis would have been celebrating the Sabbath.
Right. Why do you think they held off like that?
I'm not positive, to be honest with you. Part of it is like the holy day for Muslims is Friday. And the holy day for, Jews is Saturday, and the holy day for Christians is Sunday. So I don't know if that played into it or not, but they did do it Saturday, what would have been Saturday night in Israel, and they launched hundreds of these suicide drones. And some, there was some really bad reporting by all the news agencies, because there was, they've launched all these drones, and then they've launched cruise missiles. No, they haven't launched cruise missiles. No, wait, they have. No. Now it's ballistic missiles, which are different things, and and then it was, now Hezbollah is getting involved in their fire and artillery from Lebanon and, all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, everybody in the region kind of paused to see what was going to happen, because this was, the flight time for the drones is long.
It was like 12. Is it like 12 hours or something?
It was a long time.
Yeah.
Radar picked them up right away. Everybody knew they were coming. The Iron Dome got fired up. They had to cross over Iraqi/Jordanian airspace, which we are in Iraq. The United States are still in much smaller numbers, obviously. And then the Jordanians don't put up with any of this stuff. Like they have been allies. We worked with them even in the earliest days of Afghanistan. The Jordanians were pitching in for a Muslim, kingdom nation. They have always been opposed to, the anti-West sentiment and have always pitched in. So they certainly were not going to tolerate this stuff, violating their own sovereign airspace. They were not messing around. So they, Jordan shut down their airspace and allowed the Israelis full access, fly through if you need to, do what you have to do. And then they started shooting down drones. And then the U.S. started shooting down drones. And then anything that got through that, which was a lot, hit the Iron Dome. And truthfully, I think the kill rate was like 99 point something percent. They destroyed almost every single thing that came into, that even made it to the Israeli airspace. I think one or two, maybe three, very small numbers got through. So totally ineffective.
Right.
Totally. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of the attack. Now, what preceded it was evidently us, the Turks, and I think somebody else, the intelligence apparatus told us that this was coming.
Right.
Right. Which that's what drove President Biden to make the don't statement, which was.
Yes. If nobody knows. Yeah. If nobody, if somebody has not seen that, of course we have that bold, strong statement from our leader. Ready for it? Here it is.
Right now. Mr. President, what is your message to Iran in this moment?
Don't.
Can we just make a comparison? I have a comparison for you.
Have at it.
Here it is.
A brutal killer, one who has caused so much hardship and death, has violently been eliminated. He will never again harm another innocent man, woman, or child. He died like a dog. He died like a coward. The world is now a much safer place. He was a sick and depraved man, and now he's gone.
That was when we killed Soleimani, right?
Yeah.
That was.
I mean,
and right, there's something behind that. And what happened after that? Truthfully, Iran got put on all the sanctions, or sanctions continued. And we've heard in the aftermath of this, President Trump wasn't shy. Listen, this is all President Biden's fault, and he's not wrong.
Right.
But the intelligence apparatus gave us enough warning that we knew this was coming. Right. Even the news is asking questions. The reporters are asking questions about it. And the president gave the don't answer. And Iran said, and they did it anyway.
Exactly.
They did. They thumbed their nose at him.
Yeah.
And they launched the attack. And it was a big, we don't care what you think. But at the same time, it was completely, there was early warning. It was such a slow build. I mean, this is like hitting somebody with a car, a half a mile away, and you're creeping at 5 miles an hour. Like it's just, it's this slow build. So really, the Israelis had plenty of time. There was no injuries reported as a result. And, this was saber rattling in its purest sense. This was Iran saying, we're not going to tolerate you. Everybody in the Arab world, pay attention. We're not tolerating this from Israel. Launched this big attack that they knew was going to do absolutely nothing.
Yeah. So I find that absolutely fascinating and baffling, really. I don't understand. So, I mean, so my brand of logic, which is not always the best brand of logic, says, so they must not really want to go to war. They don't want to antagonize, right?
Nope.
Like they just want to make a statement and say, we're so mad, right?
Yes.
But not enough so. I mean, because otherwise sending drone missiles that take, like 10, 12 hours to arrive at their destination seems kind of silly, when you look at it in that sense. So am I I'm on the point here,
Yeah.
point here with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was saber rattling. This was purely, beating their chest and understanding that, and they gave the United States and specifically Israel, I think the term that's being used is an off ramp, but they gave them an out. And they basically said, after they launched everything, and I think even after most of it was shot down, they said, we have decided, this is Iran, we've decided that this attack is concluded and there will be nothing more. And, and blah, blah, blah. So they gave Israel the opportunity to not respond. Like, we're done. Clearly it was ineffective. You'll get no more from us. So Israel had the opportunity, and because they haven't responded yet, they continue to have the opportunity to not respond, which is really what Iran's hoping for, right?
Yes. And that's what people, including the US, are encouraging, a non-response, right?
Which is horrible. It's a terrible, terrible. That's why we're here now, right?
Yeah.
We're in this position now because Iran has been allowed to run their mouth. They've been allowed to do things like this without any punishment for the last 3.5 years.
Right.
There has got to be a response, right? I honestly thought Iran wasn't going to respond after Israel killed the commander of the IRGC. I mean, we talked about
it took them a little while.
Yeah, and it took them a little while. Well,
yeah,
they had to charge the batteries in the drones, but
yeah,
they responded and very ineffectually they responded, and now they're crossing their fingers that Israel doesn't turn around and respond, because their biggest fear is that Israel hits them in their energy capabilities. It's not even the oil, really. It's really about the nuclear program. They can't afford for Israel to hit them again like they did whatever it was 10 years ago and set them back again in their nuclear development program. So that's, and trust me, the Israelis will do it. I'm actually surprised they haven't already. But I think a no response is a huge strategic mistake for Israel and for the region. This is a bad message to send to everybody, whether it's, pick your country, Lebanon, whether it's, Syria as it rebuilds itself, or Libya, or whoever. This is a bad message for Israel to let this slide with no response. Like, they can't have a in-kind, ineffectual, kind of limp response. It's got to mean something. It doesn't have to be huge. I mean, we're not talking about rolling tanks into Iran from, through Jordan or anything. But I mean, a flight of fighter planes flying in and doing damage to a very strategic and very important target, sending a message and saying, hey, this wasn't the presidential palace, but it could have been. It wasn't the Ayatollah's residence, but it could have been. Let them know that, don't do this again. Don't keep your nose out of this. It's bad enough you're funding Hamas, but, keep Iran itself out of this. So we'll see how this plays out over the next, week or two.
Yeah. So just out of curiosity, what you think, could this be Iran's way of essentially like poking the bear so that the bear will make the big move, the first real move, and then they can justify whatever they, justify all out war? Or are they legitimately afraid?
So I think what Iran was looking for was an uprising of the fellow Muslim nations in the Middle East.
Okay.
And they didn't get it. Like it
nothing, right?
They didn't get it at all. So you're never gonna, I think the bridges that were being built by President Trump are standing pretty well.
Yeah.
You didn't hear a peep out of Saudi Arabia. You didn't hear a peep out of Kuwait.
No,
and
right.
Some of that might be the Shia Sunni, thing that, always persists in the Middle East. But you didn't hear anything out of any of those countries in support of Iran at all. And I think maybe they were hoping for that and didn't get it. And now, I think they're just putting their head back down and saying, man, I hope this doesn't escalate outside, because they're not going to get any help.
Right.
And they can't, truthfully, they couldn't go to war with Israel right now because it wouldn't be war with Israel. It would be war with all kinds of people. It would be us and,
Yes.
all kinds of friends of Israel. And by the way, they can just keep pumping money into Hamas to do what Hamas is doing, and then they don't have to do it. So,
right.
Yeah, I really, this whole thing didn't make a lot of strategic sense other than a little bit of chest beating and saber rattling. So I don't think much is going to come out of it, except I do expect an Israeli response within the next probably week or 10 days.
All right. Clay called it. So get ready. I need to mark this in our show notes so I can go right back to it.
See what happens.
Right. Hey, listen, we were talking, we mentioned our guy Trump there. What is a week without talking about Trump? I mean, we have to talk about this because this is big news as always. So the criminal trial, this is the hush money trial, another sham, another miscarriage of the system here. It is absurd. I mean, there's no other word for it. It is absurd. It's obviously a witch hunt, and of course the witch is Trump, and they're they're looking for everything that they can. So that's what's going on. Monday it started, and it was jury selection is going on. Lots of things going on with that. Maybe not the biggest thing about it, but just something I wanted to point out that I think is just absolutely atrocious and disgusting and indicative of just how vindictive and hateful they are. Barron Trump's graduation is coming up, and they've denied, if there's court that day, which assumably there will be, they've already denied Trump's ability to go and see his son graduate. He didn't murder anyone. Like, this isn't a serial killer. This isn't a flight risk. This isn't any of the reasons or people that you would say no to for something like this. This is vindictive scumbag behavior. It really is. And worse are the people that are like cheering and laughing about this and finding it, amusing and entertaining. You're a bunch of, I won't swear.
So let's not forget too that this is the only reason that this is a thing, right? And I hate it when it is known as the hush money trial, right? You said it yourself. Right. That is the common name that all of the media outlets are using. Yeah. This is not about money going to Stormy Daniels or any of the rest of them. It's not about the money being paid to them.
Right.
Okay. It's not about the use of hush money. It's not about out of court settlements. Oh, by the way, President Clinton did the same thing.
What?
Among others, right?
Wait a minute. Yeah. But Clay, he said this.
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Strange.
Yeah. So I love that you had that queued up. We think so.
I was so excited that you gave it.
I swear to you, that was not coordinated, not one bit. We're just like mind meld. I
was so excited that you said that. I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you.
The reason that this is a felony case is because the district attorney, right, the prosecutor in this, has determined that this is improper use of campaign funds, which makes it a felony. Now, there's no proof of that.
No,
none, zero.
No,
they just elevated this to felony level to be able to control, right, what's going on.
Yes.
This is at best a misdemeanor trial, but because it has that campaign funding twist on it, that turns it into a felony. And you're 100% right. It is out of spite. We talked, how long ago was it that we went through all of the Trump trial stuff? I mean, we went down by the numbers.
Yeah, that was a few weeks ago for sure. We went down all the numbers. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Right. So we went through all of those and we talked about, this one and this one and this one and this one, because there's there is 9 of them. And it's about being vindictive, and it's about controlling the narrative, and it's about keeping him off the campaign trail, and it's all of those things. And this judge being out of control, as the way he's handling this. But we also said, where in the United States, either for or against, could President Trump get a fair jury trial?
Right.
Because everybody either loves him or hates him. There's not a lot of in-between rational people.
Yeah, there's no gray area, generally speaking, right?
And you said it, they're doing jury selection. They dismissed half of the pool immediately because they were like, okay, who thinks they can't be unbiased? Half the pool raised their hand. You can all leave now.
And the other half is lying.
Exactly. And so they got 6, I think, yesterday. Again, folks, we're recording. This is Tuesday. Today's day 2 of the trial. So I think they got 6. They were looking for another 6 today, or maybe they got 6 today and they're looking for 6 more tomorrow. But the number sitting is 6. The jury selection alone is going to take a week.
I'm amazed that it won't take longer just because of that, But just so you guys know, so of course we do our research before we get on here. We try and get as much info as we can. So I found this fascinating. Now, the DA, Alvin Bragg, he, so like you said, the underlying felony that he's resurrected with the campaign funds, using that, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. The feds this was already brought to them. They rejected it. They said, nah, this isn't a thing. And it dropped. It was dead. Like, it was a dead thing. It was already decided. I'll read exactly what it says here. The claim was rejected by feds because campaign finance officials looked at this and determined that payment to Stormy Daniels was not a campaign finance violation, but a man trying to stop his wife from hearing the gory details of an affair. So yeah, and this, now Alvin Bragg, as some of you may know, Clay, I'm sure you already know, he ran on the promise of how many times he sued Trump and promised to do it again. All he was going to do is spend all his time suing Donald Trump.
Yeah, this is the epitome of George Soros. That's what this is, right? Bragg is a Soros-funded, put in office by Soros, district attorney, as there are many, Kim Fox in Chicago and all the rest of these. That, that's how they got there. He put them in, exactly the people that the Democratic Party and specifically Soros himself want in office to do these kinds of dirty things in the name of the system, right? And that's what Bragg is. And that is his only goal. And the only goal of this entire trial is to keep President Trump off the campaign trail as much as humanly possible.
Yep.
Getting a conviction I honestly believe, is secondary. Because they know, like you said, you read it. The feds looked at it and they're like, it's not a case. So it's not about the conviction, because they know they're probably not going to get it. And if they do, it's because of a skewed jury and there's going to be appeals. And this is about disrupting the campaign, which I think is also backfiring.
Oh, badly. I think badly. Oh, you're making a martyr of him, basically.
Exactly right.
It is right. And it is making people love him even more and root for him. And, and maybe, and I don't know what the percentage is, probably not a high percentage, but I would think that there is a percentage of people out there that were maybe either on the fence, maybe didn't care one way or the other, but they're seeing this and they're smart enough to realize that if they're doing this to a former president, what can they do to you? And that is a really serious question to ask because of what this administration is doing and what they're allowing, what they're pushing through. You can go anywhere from the gun laws to, everything we've talked about over these past weeks and months, really. All of these instances of blatant attempts and success at government control, government oversight, and things that they have no business being in, and yet they are, and only going to be more so if this continues. So I'm hoping that this is making enough people kind of come to their senses. And even if you're someone who can say, listen, I don't like Trump. I never will, never have, never will. He's not the president I want or would want, but right now he is the one that we need because of what's going on. And, I don't know, fingers crossed, prayers up. I don't know.
So, and people are starting to connect the dots because there's other legal matters going on at the same time, which fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to call it, are, people are connecting the dots because they're going on at the same time. And you can actually watch it on the evening news where they're talking about, the Trump trial. Suddenly they're talking about arguments in front of the Supreme Court about things related to January 6th. And oh, by the way, a lot of the arguments that, this was an insurrection and all these other things are being argued. The basis for that argument is now failing in front of the Supreme Court. So people go, well, that was all drummed up. And then we've got the Trump thing going on. And then, oh, by the way, you've got the attempts in Congress to, approve or reapprove the FISA, the FISA, allowing the government to, truthfully spy on American citizens, right?
Yeah, quite literally.
So you've got all three of those things going on at the same time. And you do have people who wouldn't normally pay attention or be able to put those together and see the connections between the three that just by happenstance, if you watch the news and they go in rapid succession and people go,
right,
that's a lot of bad going on at the same time as a result of, current administration in the last, 3.5 years. So yeah, it's very, very, it's not going well. I think all these attempts, and we've talked about this too, all these attempts they're not successful.
Nope, they're not successful in a lot of ways, but the biggest way it's not putting public opinion in their favor as much as they thought it would. I think it's like you said, it's having the exact opposite effect, really.
Yep, for sure.
Yep. So, and they keep getting caught with their hands in the cookie jar too, getting themselves into trouble. What is it? Letitia James's assistant is under, I think, criminal investigation.
I missed that.
Yeah. I mean, there's, they got lots of things happening there that, let's just put it this way, something to do with Trump, because that's what everything, that's like the running joke now, right? Anything that happens in the world, I stubbed my toe, Trump's fault.
They blame the Iran attack, the White House did, on President Trump.
Of course they did.
But that was the immediate reaction. This is all Trump's fault.
Right.
How stupid do you believe we are?
Right.
It's crazy.
But sadly, there are enough stupid people out there, because I see them in my comment section.
Yep.
And going, it's Trump's fault. Like how so? And then of course you get crickets as soon as you ask them a question, like to expand on that a little bit, clarify, explain to me, give me proof here, show me facts that tell me that, and they're it's crickets.
Here's the litmus test, and we'll go on to our next topic. If anybody blames this on President Trump, that there's a problem. And folks, we're talking about the fact that the FBI went out to the Baltimore Bridge at Tanker in the last few days and started a criminal investigation.
Yes.
And so again, if anybody blames President Trump for this, there's a media bias problem. But
right.
This unfortunately is feeding the conspiracy theories, because as soon as people hear FBI and as soon as they hear investigation, they start thinking that this was purposeful and all of these other things.
Sure. That does not help with that at all. And I'm not going to lie. I also, my first thought when I read that was, were they right again? Is it another?
And so people have to understand that the FBI's out there, and they are, right? They flew out to the wreckage. They're on the boat. They're digging through files. They're talking to the shipping company that's been, that's responsible for the ship itself, all of that stuff. But so is the National Transportation Safety Board. So NTSB is doing a safety investigation, right? Which is par for the course with something like this.
I was just going to say, that's pretty customary for something like
right?
this.
Anytime there's an
you have to investigate it.
Yeah, of course. But, they may have found something in the course of their investigation that said, the FBI might want to come look at this.
Right.
But here's the thing. Criminal negligence, right, is just as likely or probably more likely an explanation than criminal conduct.
Right.
Right.
Yes. And this ship did have, this is not the first incident with them. They had an accident. I feel like it was like 2000, did I save it? I don't know if I did. It was like 2016. I want to say the same ship, kind of the same thing. They scraped against another bridge, or they scraped against something. So this isn't their first incident. Don't know if it's the same crew or not. Probably not from that time span. Not likely, but it's certainly something that you would have to look into. You know, these are monstrous ships. They're cargo ships. They're massive. So you really should have people on there that know what they're doing. It's kind of a problem if you don't. So definitely, you know, and here we are, a complete bridge collapse.
Yeah. So when this happened, my gut reaction, and I don't know anything about this stuff. Truthfully, you know, I was like, well, why wouldn't they have tugs to move something that big, right? You know, under a bridge between the pylons in the dark, right? You would think that you would have, you know, trained craft and crews to do that kind of thing.
Sure.
Right. So now what I have heard, and I haven't, no consistency in this, is that what they do have are pilots, boat captains that come out. They steer the ship out of the port through the obstacles, and then before it heads out to the open sea, either the pilot gets off and he gets onto a smaller boat, or they come get him with a helicopter or whatever, but they pull that guy off. He's just there. He's like a valet, right? He drives it in and out because that's what he does to prevent things like this happening. Now, I have heard that as a concept and supposedly is in practice in that harbor. I don't know what the circumstances are with this ship. So, you know, you could extrapolate this out and say, did they have the right guy? Did they have any guy at all? Did the guy who was on there have the training he was supposed to have? Did he fabricate? You know what I mean? Like, there's a million different directions this could go, but everybody wants to turn this into terrorism. They want to turn it into, you know, some, you know, horrible attack on America. And I get it. People say FBI, they say criminal investigation, they say those things, and everybody's head explodes right out of their tinfoil hats. And you know, I don't think I'm wrong on this one. I really think that criminal negligence is what they're looking at, and that's probably what they're going to find. It's not criminal in the sense of anything other than that.
I'm so glad that I have you to temper my tinfoil hat conspiracy. I'm so glad. You're such a good balance for me. I'm not going to lie, Clay. I pull out that tinfoil hat so fast that I don't even know what. And I put it right on and I'm like, I think that, and I start going down those rabbit holes and you know, and I need a good talking down when I do that.
I said it. I think it was one of the weeks you were gone. I brought up Occam's razor, and that is like, you know, the most likely answer is probably the right one. You know, that's what that is. And that's me. I'm that guy, like the most likely. And trust me, I run scenarios in my head all the time on everything you can ever think of. But it almost always comes back to the, you know, common sense explanation is usually what happens, which is why I don't believe in haunted houses. I don't believe in aliens. Well, I didn't believe in aliens, not in the sense like, you know,
little green men
walking amongst us, but you know what I mean? Like ghosts and haunted houses and all that. I don't believe in any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Why? Because it just doesn't make any sense.
Yep. No, I like that. That's good for me. Like I said, that's good balance for me. Cause I'm right away. Like, you know what that means? All of a sudden I start talking. Yeah. I start talking like Wilford Brimley or something out of nowhere. And like, what is going on with her?
Hey, I'll give you a little comic relief, a little Wilford Brimley wake up, right? Do you know how old he was when they filmed Cocoon?
Oh God, no. How old was he?
52.
Oh, my heart.
Do you remember how old he seemed?
Oh my, I'm 52. That is.
Yes.
I feel like that man has been like 70 his entire life. Like, how is that even possible?
There you go.
I'm blown away right now. That's insane. That's like the Golden Girls. They were like some crazy. Yeah. Right. And it's, they say,
Same thing.
well, I don't know. There's no explanation for him. Like with women, they say it's all about the hairstyle. Like you change the hair. That doesn't work for him. The man has been terminally 100, you know, with the diabetes.
Diabetes. Thank you, Wilford.
Yes.
I say that way more than it's necessary, guys, by the way. I will randomly say, is it the diabetes? I don't know. I'm sorry.
That's good advertising. That's stuck in your head forever.
Exactly. That was brilliant.
Great marketing. Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Let's
anyhow, sorry, guys. We digress.
On track. Let's get back. All right. So we're on track that criminal negligence is probably what the FBI is investigating. That's
I will
if they
accept
find
this.
anything at all, that's probably what they're going to find.
I will
Could
accept
be
that.
maintenance, could be training, could be a lot of things. Criminal negligence. That's I think where we're at.
Yes. And I will, so I will say, since we're joking about it and we're laughing about it, and I'm laughing about my tinfoil hat and all those things. But I will say, like, a serious sense that it's because that it is just another thing that has happened that makes your eyebrow go up, like, this is, wow, you line all of these things up. It's getting harder and harder to say coincidence, but yes.
Listen, I'm not going to add to your tinfoil hatness, but over the weekend, I don't know if you saw it, a bunch of barges broke loose on the Ohio River and
I saw
into Pittsburgh and ended up shutting a bunch of the bridges down in
I
the
saw
city
Clay.
of Bridges, right?
I added another layer to my tinfoil when I saw that. Yes. So don't blame me, blame the events. All right. So yes. So we're gonna keep an eye on that. If there's more to report on it, we will certainly bring it to you. And listen, here's the thing: I don't want to be right. I don't want to be right. I want it to be face value. I want it to be what it is. I don't want it to be anything more than that. So yeah. So all right. So we're on our criminal track here, criminal stuff and things track. Clay, you brought this one to my attention. I was oblivious of it. What a surprise. What a surprise. I was oblivious. Yeah. So this is crazy. Go ahead and tell them about it, and then we'll talk about it.
So, this is our public service announcement for the week. So summer's coming, right? VRBO, vacation rental by owner, Airbnb, all of these short-term rental apps and programs that you can get into. People love them. I've used them before. You used them before. They're
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's nice to have a house, right? To go in and out of versus a hotel, and you get a little bit more freedom and flexibility. But here's the warning. Criminals are starting to target these things. And so I don't want to give a how-to, but this is kind of what's going on. And if you're a vacationer and you plan on doing this summer, you need to be aware, because this is going on. What the criminals are doing is they are getting on the app, right? Putting in their zip code, what Airbnb or VRBO or whatever is in the area, and then they start targeting them, right? So they'll do drive by, they'll check the house. Okay, we know that's one. Who's in the driveway now? What kind of car? And then they'll check, because you can, availability. So they'll know when it's occupied and when it's not.
Right.
And what they're doing is they're targeting the houses while the tourists are in them, because it's not your house, right?
Right.
You may miss a door lock. There's probably not a security system in a lot of these, right? It's all of those things. So they target the house. They watch that you're there, you're not there, you're on vacation. So it's not like you're just going to sit in the Airbnb the whole time. Maybe you are, but if you're not, then they're going to take advantage of that. But what they're also doing is taking advantage of the fact that you're a tourist. You're probably in a rental car in a lot of cases. You're definitely in a city that you're, probably not familiar with, or your vacation. It's not your hometown. And they're going to take advantage of your lack of situational awareness. So what are they doing? They're carjacking tourists, right? So go to the Airbnb. We know that's a tourist. We know they're driving this car, and they follow you. You go to the gas station, carjack you. They rob you, right? Not pickpocket. I'm talking like mugging style robbing. So they're using the information, right? And me being an Army guy, intelligence of these apps, and they're applying it to criminal activity, right? So they're using that to help them target tourists. It's reprehensible. I mean, it's
awful. And what a surprise. People find a way to ruin everything. Once again, people find ways to be absolute garbage humans. And this is a perfect example of that. And to your comment before, I've quite a few times we've used Airbnb. I think we've used both of them. Great experiences every time. One of the things that I did pick or look for when picking the places, and this is probably I think maybe it's a good recommendation for people who are looking for Airbnbs or the other one, is check if they have, typically they will say if they have a security system and you know, or at the very least, like a Ring doorbell. I don't know if all of them say, but the ones that I've used, did say that they had some type of security there. So that was kind of a priority. Yeah, I mean, you really do. You have to be smart. And then, you know, just add that to the other layers of personal safety and security when you do that stuff. I mean, you should be checking for, you know, you should be checking for cameras. You know, this is not to do with the external criminals. This is to do with more of the owners of these things that may not be the best people in the world. Right. So, you know, you should be checking for cameras, you know, little tiny cameras in the vents and all of those type of things. Like, I mean, just add it to the list of all of these safety measures that we have to take because of a handful of really scummy people in the world. It's bigger than a handful, I know.
Yeah. And then on top of all that, right? So you've got, as a traveler, you've got all of that to worry about, which sucks because now you're on your vacation, right? Now you got to worry about that on your vacation.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that do, right? And they're already starting to see impacts in specific places where this is, you know, kind of on the rise.
Mm-hmm.
So people are, as this becomes more public knowledge and the incidents are becoming more reported, people are going to stop using VRBO, Airbnb in those areas because of the criminal activity. So what do? Then they go back to hotels, right? Or they stop traveling, which is even worse. But not right. If they're bound to travel, then they're going to go back to hotels. Now, the owners of these are now they have a rental property that
they can't rent out.
Harder time to rent. So they're going to do what business people do. They're going to lower the price.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's going to affect this as an industry.
Right.
So, you know, there's caution there too. If you're an Airbnb VRBO owner, and you're, you know, you have this as an income stream for you, passive income kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you, but you may want to start looking to be a little more creative in how you, you know, take care of your customers and clients. Could be a boon for some people. Like if you figure out how to make sure it's a great, secure, safe experience,
mm-hmm.
you know, you may get like repeat business upon repeat business because you cracked the, you know, cracked the egg on this thing or cracked the nut on this thing and figured out how to do it. But if you're somebody who just is like, hey, look, I can't afford to dump money into extra Ring cameras or extra security systems or whatever, you know, then you're going to, might be painful for you. You might end up losing out on this, right? So it has an effect on the industry as a whole. And it really is a shame. It really is a shame.
It is because you know, it's really such a cool concept. It's such a cool idea. And there's so many of them. I mean, you can, you know, there's just so many of them. And like I said, I've always had great experiences. We haven't done it a ton of times. I don't want to make it sound like I've like, you know, been to so many of them. No, I mean, maybe like 4 times, which probably isn't a lot, but it's enough. I mean, it's enough. And, you know, I mean, it's been fine. It's been great. But yes, you do look for certain things and that's really important. And to your point, you know, like you said, that affects the prices for these things too, because like you said, it could either do one of two things. They could drop the prices because they're so desperate to get people to stay, or because they have to add so many new security measures and protections. Now it's going to jack the prices up of these stays. So it's, you know, yet another thing that's going to be.
I'll throw one more little wrench in this.
Yeah.
If this administration continues, big gov, expect more regulation because this is a generally unregulated industry.
Right.
Right. So like Lyft and Uber, you know, one of the reasons they had such an impact, like taxi cabs, as you know, in all big cities were regulated like to the nth degree.
Right.
By the city governments and those kinds of things. Right. And then Lyft and Uber were like, hey, it's your car and it's your thing. And you can, you know, and it has been generally unregulated. VRBO, Airbnb, short-term rental, also very unregulated. So when you've got the big gov folks who love to add, you know, bureaucracy and regulation to things, this is a prime example of something that if this continues, guarantee you're going to see more government involvement in that industry, which is going to do nothing but hike the prices.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess fortunately right now they're so busy trying to regulate your vehicle that you drive and your stove that you use and the light bulbs you screw into your things there. So, you know,
And
maybe
who
this
you
will,
vote for.
and who you vote for, of course, you know, so many things to control, so little time.
Terrible.
I mean, I guess I technically mean that very literally, because they are throwing everything at the wall to see what will stick, because they know potentially their time is almost up. So, you know, it's, I mean,
Awful.
one way or the other, man, is going to be, I don't know, if you're a Christian, I know that you're not, Clay. If you're a Christian, you are holding on to that Bible, and you are reading Revelation right now over and over again, man. Woo.
I went to 8 years of Catholic school, and me and God are good.
I love it. Me and God are good. I like that. I love it.
Revelation I'm familiar with.
Yes. That's intense stuff right there. We won't go there for you guys. Everybody relax.
All good. All good.
We are good. All right. So more criminals. Let's talk about California again. We've got like two running themes here. Week after week that they can't stay out of the news. And of course, that's Trump and California.
Yeah. Yesterday, I think you and I figured out yesterday was the first official day for the $20 minimum wage in California. And they're, you know, in anticipation of that, they were already starting to see the impact. You're seeing small businesses already starting to, they had to raise their prices to pay, you know, the $20 minimum wage.
Right.
You saw the first, I have to go to this place to believe this to be true, but I know I've seen it in multiple places. The first automated McDonald's.
Oh yes, I was hearing about that. Yeah. Fully automated, right?
Yeah.
Like,
that's
they probably have like one person there probably, right?
Yeah. It's like absolute minimum staffing. You know, you're basically there to tell people that the shake machine is broken.
Right.
Because that's McDonald's.
Yeah, it's always broken. Yeah. It's always broken. Really makes me angry.
Except during Shamrock Shake season, thank God.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, that is, I think, the extreme of this, but that's reality right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's like a matter of course, right? Like, duh.
It is. It's so much that hasn't been thought through. Right. The one, we've talked about this before. You can't, like, minimum wage jobs are not pay the bills jobs. They're get you on your feet,
really.
Right. They get you on your feet. They're high school kid jobs.
Yeah.
Right. That's what that's about.
Right.
They're not sustainable living jobs. That's not the intent behind those. $20 puts them in that sustained employment realm.
Right.
The problem is that now you are, you know, lessening the number of those jobs available because they can't pay as many people.
Right.
The economics of this make absolutely no sense whatsoever.
No. And you look at, you know, not even just California, you look across in my state, I'm sure it's in your state as well. Grocery stores, most of the checkout area, it's not checkout lanes anymore. It's a checkout area where it's all self-checkout. And it started off, and I remember this, it started off with there being like maybe two self-checkout lanes. And now there's, I'm just thinking of the grocery store I frequent the most. There's half a dozen, 8 maybe, self-checkout stations. And at any given time, like, they still have their lanes with the cashiers, but there's usually like 1, maybe 2 people on those, and they will direct you. Most of them, they have somebody like directing you over to the self-checkout rather than the lines, you know, and that's everywhere now. And that's part of all of this. You keep raising that minimum wage. And I'm not saying that they should never raise the minimum wage. I mean, you know, we're not saying that at all, but within reason, within sustainability for businesses. That's just common sense right there. As soon as you do that, exactly what Clay is saying will happen. Well, there's going to be layoffs. There's going to be not even layoffs, firing. You're just gone. We can't afford you. You're out. Closing of stores moving somewhere else. This is such an obvious consequence of what they're doing. They were at $16 an hour, and they bumped it up to 20. And, you know, and the impact, of course, is pretty immediate, right? I mean, it's pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, it's simple math because it goes by force, right? So if you were $16 an hour before, assuming no increase in your prices and no increase in your costs, right?
Right.
All of that remains. If you go from $16 an hour to $20 an hour, you have to cut one employee.
Right.
Immediately, right?
Yep.
That's minimum. Cut one employee.
Yep.
So that's, 20% of your workforce gone. It's taken out of the equation. And if you're a place that has hundreds of workers or even dozens of workers, especially if you're a place that runs multiple shifts where people work on minimum wage, now you're starting to, the impact of 1 out of 5 when there's only 5 people working at the place is one thing. The impact of 1 out of 5 when there's 100 people working at the place, you've just lost 20 jobs.
Yeah.
That's 20 people out of work to sustain this $20 minimum wage. So while you've got 80 people that are making $4 more an hour, you've got 20 people who are now making nothing, zero, out of work. And it just, none of it makes sense. None of it.
No, it doesn't. It makes zero sense. And I guess if you wanted to try and find some kind of upside here, I guess the only thing I could think of to say that might be positive in a really warped way is that if my state is any indication of the country, which I actually know that it is for the most part, you can't get anybody to work anyhow. Nobody's working. Nobody's showing up for their jobs. All these people are desperate for people to come in, which maybe is part of why they're attempting this, minimum wage hike to encourage people to work. So, I don't know. Is that a bright side? I don't. It's not a bright side. It's
the cost of living out there is so out of whack, but it has been for so long. I mean, I'll go back to 2003. Okay, and this was like the bottom of the housing market. I had just been moved to a new duty station and bought a house, and I bought 4 bedroom, 3 bath, 20 something, 2,400 square feet, 2-car garage, 1/4 acre lot, nice place in Kansas, right? Leavenworth, Kansas. My best friend who is in show business out in LA bought a house exactly the same size. Square footage, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, lot size, garage size. The only difference was he had a pool. Okay? Now this is 20 years ago.
Right.
I paid, $180,000, I think, for that house.
Unimaginable now. Yeah.
Yeah. He paid like $875,000.
Wow. That is such an extreme difference. It's mind-boggling.
Within 60 days of each other.
Wow.
So you look at the cost of living, the taxes, everything associated, and the difference between middle America, the flyover states, and coastal LA, California, 20 years ago, you see the difference. And now, and this is where you end up when your cost of living gets that far out of whack. This is where you end up.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, another one to sit back and watch and shake your head at, which has been like, I'm looking at our topics here. I feel like, almost all of them, that's exactly what you're doing through all of this is just shaking your head, man. I mean, we're all going to get like whiplash from having to shake our heads so much at the things that go on that are so incredibly illogical, impractical, and unsupportable. It's just unsupportable. All of these things that are going on, and what's the common denominator? This administration. Starts from the top and trickles down to all of us, and we're the one that pay for all of it. For everything that's happening, we pay for it financially, emotionally, everything. And man, oh man, I think we're all sick and tired of it.
You know what we should do? Let's do this. Throw a dart for next week.
Okay.
No, we don't know what's going to happen in the next week.
Right.
Give me something that you think is going to happen between now and then, and we'll see how good we are at predicting stuff.
Oh, you've been so spot on with these. I think you're going to nail it. Let's see. Okay. In relation to our topics or just in general?
In general.
Oh my God. You go first and maybe I'll be able to piggyback on that. I don't know. We'll see. Go ahead. You go first.
I'm going to pull one out of thin air and we'll see what happens. Somebody somebody big in the administration. So let's call it a cabinet member or a key staff member in the White House is going to quit or be fired this week.
Ooh, that's you have intel. Do you have some kind of intel?
Nothing.
I feel like that's out of thin air.
We're overdue. That's where I'm getting it from. We're overdue.
Good point. Well, I think I'm going to be a little more general. That was pretty good. That was pretty specific, I think, like more specific than I'm going to be. I'm going to say that, their distraction tactics are a little lax at the moment. There's a little lull here. It's getting a little repetitive. Everybody's kind of getting glazed over. So I think they're going to have to put out something big as a new distraction to something that they're doing. So I mean, I don't know what the distraction will be, but I think it'll be something big that we're all going to be, because we're looking here, there's a lot of conversation about, there's a lot of pressure for debates. So they really need to steer that ship in a different direction. They gotta do like they did with that barge. Sorry, that's not a
pylon.
Yeah. So that's going to be my prediction that they're going to throw something at us that's absurd. Right. Okay. That's what I'm going with.
All right. And you know what? They could be the same thing.
They could be. They could very well be.
Yeah.
I kind of, in a weird way, almost hope that it is because I like being right. It's my favorite.
See what happens.
Yes.
We'll see what happens.
All right, guys. Those we're that's what we're digging our heels in right now on that. You know the deal. You know what I'm going to say, everybody. We love your input so much. You've been so phenomenally interactive. We're so grateful. We love hanging out with you in the comments section. And I love doing the show with you, Clay. It's just so much fun. You close them out.
Listen, it's been growing too. I think we had our biggest YouTube viewership week was, I think, this past week, the biggest one we've had so far. And by far the activity in the, I told you, like, I'm like National Command Center while this is going on. The comments in YouTube this past week as the show was, as it dropped on Thursday night they were huge. Like, just comments and comments and comments. It was great. And I love the fact that our audience members are interacting with each other.
Yes, I love that.
I love that. We got our own little community going. So let's keep that up. And as always for me, folks, I love being here and I love doing this with Elsa. But till next week, keep moving, keep shooting.
Indeed. Take care, guys. We'll see you in the next one.